The two biggest issues facing the horse industry, well, the biggest one was the downturn of the economy because horses are often considered luxury items. But the two issues that continue to haunt the horse industry are what? Horse welfare, which Keith talked about, and declining ownership. And you looked at the declining registration numbers. And that's not just because all of that's due to the economy. A lot of it's because that the next generation is not nearly as interested in horses as some of us are. So I just want to throw this back up, this slide that Keith showed at the end, and that's that you look at youngsters, 18 to 34-year-olds, young adults, there's significantly fewer of them own horses or show horses or trail ride horses than folks from my generation or the generation before. You know, used to be our grandfathers owned horses, our dads owned horses, we own horses. But like my case, my sons, if you handed them a halter and said, go put it on a horse, God only knows what would happen. They have no interest. Fortunately, my granddaughter does, so we've got her in the business. So this is a big issue, and the horse industry's always competed against each other. They've never really worked well together other than legislative activity like the American Horse Council. But I think the pain got severe enough a few years ago, around 2009, 2010, we had a meeting at the AEP where a lot of the associations and disciplines came together and talked about declining numbers. And the outcome from that meeting was the formation of an organization. It's a marketing alliance has been formed in 2012. And you can see the organizations on the top, and these organizations have each donated $25,000 each over a 3-year period, so $75,000 each. And then the alliance partners down here below they each donate $1,000 a year. And so with that seed money, the horse industry has kind of come together and started a major effort to market horses to non-horse people that traditionally haven't ridden horses. And we call that initiative A Time to Ride. And the marketing alliance is under the umbrella of the American Horse Council. So the goals are to grow the horse industry by engaging horse facilities and organizations to help create a need or desire by people to ride horses. And when this started out, we aimed pretty much, and I'll show you in a couple slides, aimed at the non-horse owner. And we didn't spend much time with the individual stables and veterinarians and horse clubs and 4-H and FFA and so forth. But as we moved through this over the last few years, we've learned that they're very important in this, and so we've reached out to them to help. And so what we're trying to do is get people next to a horse. Some people want to get on them, and some people just want to brush them, and some people just want to stand by them. It's kind of interesting what different people like to do. But just getting them next to a horse, the presence of a horse, and then try to spark enough of an interest to go that next step, which is to go to a stable and get on a horse or do something with horses. So the goals and strategies: increase ownership, increase participation in horse events, and improve the public's perception of horse welfare. The general public has a bad perception of horse welfare based on race day medication issues, breakdowns, walking horses, you name it. They don't think we take very good care of our horses. So one of the side issues here was to go ahead and try to work on that also. So Patty Colbert's in charge of this, her and her marketing group, and they've developed a digital hub. They have developed professional toolkits to help the barns and facilities that are going to implement this. I'll talk a little bit about some of the test rides we've done, trail ride gatherings, and then we've worked on educating kids. And so AQHA has a website called Take Me Riding, and you can go on there, and they have games to play. They have all kinds of stuff to do. They have videos. I don't know how many of y'all remember Spin and Marty when we were kids. Any of you guys remember that? Probably too young. Anyhow, it was a show that was on every week that Disney put on that was pretty neat. Kids who were on a dude ranch. So they have videos of kids that have never been around a horse and they've gone to horse camp, or kids that are on a dude ranch, or kids that live on a ranch. And you can go in there, and every week or two there's a new session is pretty neat stuff, kind of get the kids interested. So we did a lot of research. We interviewed about 2,500 people to find out where we should focus. And what we've learned was that we thought we should focus on children, but what we've learned is you have to focus on their mothers, because the mothers are hauling them to the barn. It's not the kids. It's, and so we've learned that that's our target, and I'll show you that. When we asked them, what would it take to get you interested in horses? And all of the women that we interviewed said it had to have a sense of purpose. I don't know what that means. That's a very logical answer, but I'll show you what they liked, which doesn't illustrate a sense of purpose at all. But they said it has to have a sense of purpose. So it has to be educational or something. We're going to focus on events of participation, contact with the horses, and then develop a network where they can interact with horse people. And this is what I think is funny. When we showed them a bunch of pictures and said, which of these pictures resonates with you, why you would want to get in the horse business? And like I said, they all said it has to have a sense of purpose. But this is the picture they all picked, right? Riding down the beach with your hair blowing the breeze and your arms back. They all said, that's what I want to do. That's what I want to be. So mothers and daughters have the same reason. It's freedom, it's strength, it's dedication, it's getting outside and being active, being around pretty animals. They all like this image, and I'll show you some images like this and some more that we're going to use to help resonate with these. So we did the research. We set up a website, timetoride.com, and a media hub. We have a couple of test rides that we did at the Austin Rodeo and the Del Mar Racetrack. I'll show you some of the results of that. We have a social media map that's provided by AQHA that shows you where riding barns are, veterinary clinics, horse shows, anything associated with horses. They can go in there and put in their zip code, and it'll show them the barns in their area, or the trainers in their area, or the veterinarians in their area, or anybody, dude ranches, trail rides, anything associated with a horse. We've set up some reward programs to try to get them into it. There's quite a bit of distance learning on the website, both through AQHA and the Jockey Club and some of the other organizations that are involved, as well as this Time to Ride. And then they set up a mom's blogger campaign, which I don't know anything about blogging, but apparently that's something that they can go in there and talk about their great experiences. And so the focus is on the mother and the children. National Meet a Horse Day, we'll talk about that in a little bit. Time to Ride Challenge, that's a contest where we actually engage riding stables and veterinary clinics and dude ranches and so forth to reach out in their area and try to bring people in and get them on a horse. Moms Roundup, where there's an incentive program for them these are mothers that are already involved in the horse industry, but it's incentive to get them at their barn to reach out and try to bring some of their friends and their kids in. And then Time to Ride Stories, where we've provided funds, prize money for kids that write the best essay about their experience with their horse. So the primary audience is a woman, 35 to 45 years of age, married with kids, with no horse experience. These are women that have a pretty good household income. They tend to be college graduates. And if you look at our client base, Marvin, if you look, we were talking about this the other day. My daughter-in-law started riding, and my oldest son's a dentist, and he is right at the point where she thinks they ought to buy a horse, and he thinks they shouldn't. And I'm in the middle. And I said, well, you could lease one. But I was telling my son the other day, I go, in my practice, 85% of the clients were women at barns whose husbands were professional people, and they and their daughters were the ones that were riding, right? Well, that's the person we're trying to reach out to that's a non-horse person to bring into the fold, because that's the kind of person that you usually see. And then we're trying to engage lesson and training barns and horse organizations, horse shows, and so forth. So we had two back in 2014, we had a couple of events. One was a dad drives and mom rides, and we did this in conjunction with Dodge Trucks at the Austin Rodeo. So Dodge Trucks brought trucks there, and the husbands could go take a test drive in a nice truck, and the wives and daughters could go ride a horse. We had a round pen up, and we had horses there from local barns where they could get on them, or they could pet them, or they could hug them, or they could do whatever they want. So we had about 1,200 people to participate. And we had 19 barns that each gave a $25 horse experience coupon. So if you wanted to take a lesson or go spend some time with a horse, you could go over there and get $25 off a riding lesson. And so we only had about 5% redemption by the decision makers on those coupons. So that's why we've changed the program a little going forward. The other was at Del Mar Racetrack, where we had about 320 people get on a horse between noon and 6 in the afternoon. And we had about 20 barns that gave vouchers for the horse experience of a discount and so forth. And so we had some redemptions, but again, it's still not what we were after. This is the mom bloggers. I don't know anything about that, but Patty says this is a good thing because there's a lot of discussion goes on between these mothers about what their daughters are doing and riding and so forth. So the secondary audience is the industry professionals, the lesson and training barns, the horse organizations, the veterinary practice in that area. Because what we found was we can drive the mothers and their daughters to an event and get them on a horse, but when they go to the barn, if there's not a good experience, that's the end of it. And a lot of the barns, and Keith alluded to this earlier, the horse industry is not very welcoming. If you go to a horse show and you just drop in to see what's going on, and you start talking to most horse people, the minute you call a horse the wrong color, right? You call a chestnut a sorrel at the wrong show, then they think you're stupid and you don't know anything about horses, and they kind of give you the cold shoulder. And that's one of the big problems we've had bringing people in the industry. So we started including these folks in the deal as a secondary audience. And we've provided them with a lot of tools and so forth to help them. Of course, the pain's enough with the downturn of the industry. They're a lot more interested in doing this than they were 5 years ago. 5 years ago, they were like, I got more horses than I know to do it. Now they're interested. So we provided them with downloadable ads and flyers that they can put in their own barn name and so forth. And these flyers have a lot of information, and they can put them out. They can use them for advertisements or so forth. We're providing them with marketing toolkits that they can use to help promote their barn or their training facility and to help them draw people in, as well as us help drive people into those facilities. We've also given them toolkits on how you use some of the tools that we've provided, like press releases and community notices and so forth, and activities that they can do with novice horse people. When they bring them in, here's some fun things that you can do with these people while they're at your facility. Because a lot of them don't, when the horse industry was really rolling, really doing well, they didn't have to do any of this. But now they do, but they don't. A lot of them don't know how to do it. So we provided those to them to help them do that. And then, like I said, AQHA has a Take Me Riding maps that you can go on, and that map will tell you where the local barns are, where the local horse shows are, veterinary clinics, and so forth. Another audience is mothers who currently ride or bring their kids to the lesson barn. And so we've been kind of provided them with some incentives to help us out because their daughters are interacting with daughters that don't ride, and the mothers are interacting with mothers who don't ride. And so this is a good thing that we've kind of reached out to them as one of our other audiences, that when we started this thing, we were totally focused on the person that wasn't riding horses currently. So we have a new challenge coming up here in 2015 that'll start in May. And we'll talk a little bit about that. In 2014, we had a challenge that we wanted to get 25,000 people on horses that had never been on a horse. And so we put together a deal where the sponsors in this, the organizations that are funding this, put up prize money and prizes that they could use. And we ended up with about 700 people, 700 barns, and some veterinary clinics hosting events. So we had around 700 events at almost every state. And we got about 25,000, a little more than 25,000 people on horses. And from that, we learned a lot of stuff. We collected best practices about how some of them did it, what was successful and what wasn't successful, what worked and what didn't work. There were a lot of the 44,000 page views are the number of people that went on the Take Time to Ride website and read up on it, which was pretty good, we thought, for the first year. So this year, we're going to expand that, and Patty Colbert provided these slides. She said we're going to double the number of newcomers, but she told me she was aiming at 100,000, not 50,000, so we'll see how that works out. But it's going to build on what we did last year. And from May to September 30th, there will be events held at these various shows and these various barns, boarding barns or training barns, and there are a lot of veterinary clinics that are involved in this, where they bring people in, they educate them on horses, they put them on a horse, they do some fun activities, and they kind of help them with a pleasant experience. There's also contests from these facilities who has the neatest photos, videos. Again, they're going to do their campaign where the kids are writing essays and so forth, and we're going to expand this quite a bit in the coming year. So also, like I said earlier, toolkits, advertising, social media, flyers, and alliance support. And the divisions you can see, the definitions of what makes a small division, 5 lesson horses or fewer, or you get up to a large division where there's 13 or more lesson horses. And then you can see there's veterinary clinics, retail outlets, racetracks, shows, expos, equine centers, a number of things. And then based on how large they are, they fall into a different division when it comes to prizes that they're going to get, either financial or some other prize that's been put up. Their grant programs, we've got put out about $5,000 for this fall, where little individual training barns or something can develop an outreach program of some sort and provide them anywhere from $250 to $500 to set up a little program, maybe over a weekend or over a holiday, to bring in kids. It's kind of a neat deal that's working pretty well. Mom Roundup, that's to get the mothers involved and to communicate more. Prizes, T-shirts, coupons, incentive programs to get them to refer people. It's all aimed at kind of firing up the barns and getting them out in the public sector a little bit more, and then driving new customers to them, because they're the ones that are going to have to run this day in and day out. July 25th is going to be a nationwide Meet a Horse Day, where there will be probably hundreds of these organizations and barns and so forth that will have a campaign and try to bring people in that day. There will be a lot of publicity. There will be a lot of ads and so forth in the papers. There have been some work trying to get on the local TVs and national TV shows to talk about this. There's been some of that. We'll provide toolkits, and then there'll be contests to follow up later on after it takes place. Some of the themes and messages we're trying to get out there is that how much fun it is, how it builds confidence in young people. It bonds them to their animals. It teaches them responsibility. It's good for their body and soul and mind and heart and everything else. So it just kind of put those in people's minds. When they think of horses, they think of good things and good thoughts and want to get involved with them. 2014, we had a essay contest. We had a couple hundred entries. I read quite a few of them, but some of them were pretty neat. They're pretty neat. I'm not sure, Patty, I think these are on the website, some of the winners, but they're good, not just that they had a good time, they had a lot of fun, but what it did for their confidence. Getting on a big, scary horse weighs 1,200 pounds, and you've never been around one, it's kind of a scary deal. But once you find that you can get on there and you can actually control the horse and have a lot of fun, it's kind of a neat thing. So here's some of the ads that'll go out. Ride your tension off. Ride your flab off. Ride your wrinkles off. Connect to disconnect. So these are all, like you can see, are aimed at resonating with that certain demographic, the young mother and her daughter. That doesn't mean we don't want boys involved. But boys, it's interesting in the breed associations and the disciplines, what the boys want to do, they like roping and mounted shooting and things that are kind of risky, right? Polo, they like polo. They like anything that they can get out there and
don't get bossed around on how to do it.
That's right, right. And they're not as disciplined, perhaps, in the girls. They just like to ride. You know, my granddaughter, she just likes to get on her horse and ride around the ring and jump over a 2-foot jump. She thinks that's the best thing. Yeah, yeah. So there's a lot of work going on by the breeds and disciplines that attract boys. But this is mainly low-hanging fruit, we think. And so that's where we're going to start out. Perhaps someday we'll expand it to
expand this thing too.
Mm-hmm. But we're only 2 years into it.
Right.
This is our third year.
Boys would go for that.
Mm-hmm. And in the videos that are on, the quarter horse videos, I think 2 or 3 of them are girls, but one of them's a boy that's about 12. They're pretty neat. They're pretty neat. Have you seen any of those, Keith? They're pretty neat videos, you know. So that's kind of the deal. So I think it's a pretty good deal. It's expanded over the last couple of years. We've got a lot more folks. Some folks didn't want to put in that $75,000, so we've opened it up where they can put in less amount and still participate. And then these alliance partners provide a lot of prizes, you know, anywhere from clothes to T-shirts to you name it for some of the contests that we have and so forth. So it's a pretty good deal.